Hey, everybody, it's an unplanned broadcast today. Natalie was out of pocket for a while, and I had a couple of hours, and I thought, well, I can do one of three things. I can scroll my phone and lose my will to live. I can take myself to a matinee of The Monkey, which actually looks like a lot of fun, but I just thought it's kind of sad and pathetic to be to be sitting in the theater all by yourself, and I didn't really want to do that. And or I could chat with you, and we could talk about the shit show, which was the events of yesterday. I cannot believe we are living in the timeline that we are living in. Phone lines are open if you have a comment or question. I'm mostly interested in what do we do now? Because I think that's the question we're all asking each other. Yesterday was the big retail blackout. Everybody's like, don't shop, don't go to the stores, especially the chains. You know, we'll show them. And I mean, okay, small acts of resistance, but I'm not convinced we were doing anything except kind of self gratifying. Like, you didn't buy it the day before, or you didn't buy it that day, but you then bought it the day before or the day after. So, okay, they see a 24-hour blip. Somebody sees a 24-hour blip in retail sales that gets made up within the 72-hour window in which it happened. And I wondered if this was just an act of people who are desperate to try to do something, anything. So this was maybe a kind of a cheerleading session for us. Ah, look at us, the resistance. We didn't click purchase on Amazon today. There may be merit to that. You know, there may be merit. I don't know. Um, Hang on just a second. I got to set the rest of my stuff up. I've been looking for all of the stuff that I have here. There's overlaid video clips. I thought I had style, display name. Okay, and then we're all set for chats and super chats. If you would like your super chat read on the air, a donation, a super chat of any amount. And of course, I encourage you to join the channel and support me on Patreon. Okay. So I'm going to say something that is really unpopular with a lot of people. Really unpopular. And the reason I'm going to say this is because I had this conversation with somebody earlier today, and they had a legitimate point. The Democrats are jaw-droppingly frustrating right now. I mean, we're seeing individual pockets. We're seeing, Jamie Raskin is brilliant. AOC has been on the front lines of this. We've seen Jasmine Crockett, who has been speaking out. We've got Democratic Congress people who have been doing, Bernie Sanders has been out there. He's gone hard. He's fierce. And so they're on record challenging the feckless Republican Party that has, or they've just sold out. If I said recently, Trump is still grabbing him by the pussy, and it belongs to the GOP, right? They have lined up lockstep behind this authoritarian and his power grab. And I think even the ones who were like, holy shit, we didn't know he'd go this far, are too cowardly to jump forward and say anything. I mean, what's the point of critical mass? When is someone going to say, well, maybe that's enough? And I used to be more optimistic about this. But over the course of 10 years, you and I came to the same point. We thought, well, this will be the point where they've had enough, and they wake up from their slumber and they say, this is a bunch of crap, and sanity returns. But that wasn't it. Right. It wasn't the revelation of the Access Hollywood tape, the grab them by the pussy tape. No, that didn't do it. No. Wasn't the paying off of porn stars with campaign funds. No, that wasn't it. No, it wasn't how many tens of thousands of documented lies. No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. It wasn't the childish rants and the insults and the grift. Selling everything from NFTs to crypto to $500 golden tennis shoes. No, that's not enough. The insurrection of January 6th, people smashing their way into the White House. There's tear gas. People are killed. An assault on police officers, and the hashtag law and order crowd somehow turns the other way and says, it was a day of love. That didn't do it. I've come to believe there really is no bottom. So I'm not optimistic. The only thing that I think might happen is if Trump cult feels it personally. In other words, all the shit that they were okay with dishing out to the other comes back on them. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't know I was going to lose my government job. Oh, no. I didn't realize that my price of eggs would actually go up. Oh, no. I didn't realize that the agriculture industry would see crops not subsidized. Farmers would lose their shirt and have to go bankrupt. We'd become even more reliant, perhaps, on foreign products because we starved everybody domestically with tariffs, etc. I didn't realize that they would be closing down. Here in my home state of Oklahoma, Tinker Air Force Base, they just announced the layoffs of 600 military service members. Well, the law and order MAGA crowd loves them some military. The men and women of uniform, hand over heart. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, right? For amber waves of grain. Yes, oh yes. We stand behind our troops. Oh shit. They're laying off 600 people at Tinker Air Force Base? Well, why is he doing that? And of course, you and I have been like, hello, we've been banging this drum for a decade. We have been saying he will do the things he is doing. And you've been like, la, 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 la. So I just think until it hits them and until they get kicked in the teeth, they lose their homes, they lose their jobs, they can't pay their bills, they're on the street. I mean, hell, I don't know. Even then, there are people, I'm sure, who will blame Biden or whatever. Now, the discussion I had this morning was this, that it's the Democrats' fault that we are here today because they have been so ineffectual. And it's messy. It's messy. And this is just one guy's opinion, and the comment section's going to go insane, and I'm sure the switchboard's going to fill up with commentary. Okay, cool. Cool, let's talk. All right. Biden, I think, relatively speaking, good man, terrible candidate for 2024. Terrible candidate. He should have left long before he did. But in the 11th hour, he steps down after a disastrous debate. Kamala Harris then jumps in. And the argument I heard was Kamala was a terrible candidate. And I totally disagree. The other argument was, well, it was so late in the day, so to speak. She came in so late in the game that they didn't have time to ramp up momentum. I don't buy that argument. Are you shitting me? 5 months is not enough time. She's on every channel. She's on every headline. Everybody knows who she is and what she's saying, and she's having rallies all over. Every celebrity's talking about her. We don't know who Kamala really is. We didn't have enough time to get introduced to her as a candidate, and she should have run sooner. That's the Democrats' fault. Well, I don't buy that. Biden should have opted out, but it wasn't a time problem. I don't buy, well, we had to go after the undecideds. How in the absolute hell could you be undecided in this horse race? How could you be? Whenever the news camera crews go out or they put those people in the focus groups and they talk to them and they're like, we have assembled 12 people who are undecided on the candidates, and they say they don't know who they'll vote for in November. So after the debate, we're going to ask them questions about what they think now. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? How can you be undecided? What are you been freeze dried? Have you been living on another planet and they just shipped you in? What? Undecided? It's not even close. This sort of middle ground. Well, I'm right in the middle. The middle, it's not a good position to take. Kamala, right? Attorney General of one of the biggest states in the union, has a law enforcement background and served as the vice president of the United States. And you've got people talking about her like she's nothing but a DEI hire. Are you shitting me? Could you be any more racist or misogynistic? So I wrote a blog while I'm waiting for people to call in. I wrote an article called, let me pull it up here. We didn't lose the election because, quote unquote, Dems failed. I'm just going to read it. Okay. And I think I read this on the podcast last week or the week. I read it somewhere. Hopefully it wasn't on a tangent stream. I don't think it was. I spoke or wrote these words January 25th. On January 25th, 2025, my friend Gail Jordan, who, by the way, is the executive director of Recovering from Religion, wrote a Facebook post that struck a nerve. She said, if I hear one more podcast or read one more Substack about the work Dems have to do on our messaging, I'm going to scream. The thing that happened in this election is not on us. There was nothing broken about our messaging or messenger. Say they were imperfect all you like. It was pro-union, pro-LGBTQ, pro-choice, pro-middle class, pro-Ukraine. It was a strong and central, a Democratic Party message as we have had, and she delivered it flawlessly. And I agree. She was great on stage. She was a great communicator and a great leader. Strong, smooth, polished, authoritative. Gail Jordan, half of this country falls in one or more of these four buckets: mis or uninformed, resentful, wealthy, or power hungry. There is no message or candidate who can speak to voters who have chosen to forego reality and who want the narrative to be XYZ, and therefore it is XYZ. They're justifying Nazi salutes and defending violent felons. What the hell messaging can break through that? This will end only when they themselves feel the pain of being played. And the rest of us get to suffer along until that happens. And I followed up and I said, she's absolutely correct. Those expecting a perfect campaign apparently think humans can be gods. But the lie that Kamala Harris, a terrific candidate, lost because of fringe lib wokeist un-Americanism or whatever was carefully manicured and massively funded by the opposition. Billionaires behind outlets like Fox News and X culled and weaponized entire cultures. Radical Christian lobby groups and shadow puppeteers, Leonard Leo, etc., they schemed for decades, unconstitutionally giving voter guides to churchgoers as pastors spouted Christian nationalist sermons and demonized Trump's opposition. Dear Leader allegiance was labeled patriotic duty, especially for the heavily armed target demographic, easily activated by tribal symbols and xenophobic rhetoric. Religious tendencies toward authoritarianism and holy war narratives further rallied the flock. All it took was a performative prayer and a Bible in my hand photo op to seal the deal. An epidemic of American ignorance herded the many to blindly follow the few. How can one expect an informed vote by those who don't understand how the rest of the world works, from vaccines to evolution to climate science to tariffs? Note that right now, 25% of Americans do not know that the Earth orbits the sun. Did you know, by the way, there was a big protest, or a bunch of people got upset because we were using in this country Arabic numerals? And finally, Harris was very much a champion for inclusion, equality, fairness, and a melting pot nation with a place for all. But her campaign messaging led with reproductive rights, tax breaks for young families, job creation, and other mainstream issues that would actually benefit those not born with silver spoons. And I'll toss in that her VP choice was a white bread, corn-fed Midwesterner gun owner. You know, this idea that he wasn't a great choice to appeal to people who might otherwise be attracted to Trump is just crazy. Fox News, Newsmax, Elon Musk, etc., told their myopic masses that the, quote, radical left Democratic Party loved border rapists, wanted to murder babies, would have your kids gender changed in homeroom, knew only selfish hedonism that comes from Elon Musk about people who are child free, used DEI programs to persecute white people, sought laws to make religion illegal, Christianity, planned to strip every citizen of every firearm, and they just plain hated America. Our self-flagellation over the election laws takes focus away from the power of the oligarchs, the Christian nationalism machine, history revisionists and their platformers, and the overall sad state of indoctrinated, dismissive, lazy, and/or bigoted and cruel Americans. Introspection is always wise, but Kamala lost because Trump cult was an easy mark for empty promises and scary monologues about the traitorous and dangerous others with a capital O. In my heart, and I'm in conflict about this, but in my heart, I'll admit to wanting Trump cult to feel consequences for what it has done. Already, MAGA is starting to realize their healthcare policies are on the bubble. Critical immigrant workers might disappear from their companies. Grocery prices might spike. Tech bros care more about power and expensive toys than struggling citizens. Chest-beating military conflicts might put American sons and daughters on the front lines. Important public services might be less available in emergencies, and the smoke in their nostrils might be coming from their own burning houses. If the rabid gorilla they unleashed turns on them, my sympathy centers are pretty numb. I do hope that these people haven't taken the rest of us down with them. Now, is it true right now that we liberal, progressive, I don't know, non-Trump people, it's like herding cats? Like, I think I'm looking for a rallying point. We see all these little skirmishes. I read an article in the New Yorker that right now, while I am not hearing nearly enough at this moment from the whole of the Democratic Party, I mean, we're seeing Raskin, et cetera, but I mean, we need a concentrated effort. We need unification, unanimity. We need a rallying point where we are all together. And I think people are desperate to try to find that. They're creating microcosms of that in their own cities and circles. You've read about the town meetings where, even MAGAs are going, what the why would you support Russia over Ukraine? It's gotten so bad that now it has been recommended that Republican congresspeople no longer hold town hall meetings because they don't want to have to face the people. Bunch of freaking cowards. And then you've got this theater yesterday, and I'm wondering how it's going to, if it's going to nudge anybody. I'm not optimistic. It's a total ambush of Zelensky at the White House as Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, I think, try to do this sort of shallow locker room performative masculinity. It's really the weak person's idea of what strength is, right? What is healthy strength? Right? Using your ability, using the power that you have to elevate us all, to build instead of just break, right? Because any child can throw a tantrum and break things. But Donald Trump and J.D. Vance wanted to show strength. And you could see it in the body language. You could see it in the pointing of the finger. And you don't have any cards. Yeah, where is our gratitude? Why aren't you thanking us enough? And of course, there are records of all the times that Zelensky has thanked the United States and the American people, which I think is a great angle to take, by the way. He's not bowing. He's not kissing the ring. He's thanking the American people. And he pushes back, and the Fox News crowd paints Zelensky as the bad guy. And he keeps saying, everybody's saying, the whole world is saying, Russia's the aggressor. Russia invaded Ukraine. There's this big thing about mineral rights. Oh, yeah, you need to make it worth our while. So to sign this agreement. Okay, somebody breaks into my house and they endanger me and my wife, and if I had kids, all my kids, okay? Everybody I care about They want to harm us, potentially kill us. At the very least, they want to oppress us, kick us out, enslave us. I don't know what. And they're going to take everything that I have because they believe it's rightfully theirs. And someone who says that they are my ally or should be my ally says, wow, that sucks. I tell you what, I've got enough strength to be able to assist you, to help you protect yours, right? But you got to make it kind of profitable for me. I mean, what's in it for me, pal? You know, you got to give me a percentage or else I'm going to let them, kill your people. Who thinks like that but a sociopath? Then leaders of the free world today rally, or yesterday actually, rally right after this blow up. The meeting ends early. Trump kicks Zelensky out of the White House. And he's like, you call me when you're ready to have peace. And the leaders of the free world realize now they are absolutely without question understanding that if there is a free and democratic world of liberty, decency, safety, democracy that is going to exist, it is going to have to happen at the exclusion of the United States. We are now an outsider. They are operating and consolidating and sort of trying to reassemble pieces so that they can accomplish the good on this planet without us. And still, I'm waiting for MAGA to go, wow, that's kind of a bad thing. But many people have been isolationist anyway. They see us as citizens only of the United States and not citizens of the world. There's us and them. But here we are at a point, another historic day, tragically historic day, going, what the hell can I do? Because not shopping at Target yesterday is not going to do it. Is there a major event? Is there a specific cause? Is there something that we can all do together to show strength and numbers? And if I may be honest, scare the ever-loving shit out of the people whose only interest is self-interest. So if they think they're on the bubble, if they think it's about to go down, they have no choice but to act. They're not going to do it for reasons of moral or conscience or morality. They're going to do it because, holy shit, they're coming for me. They were going to take my job. I'll be disgraced. I won't have any future, That's the only thing you're going to hear. Where do we go? What do we do? Where do we go? What do we do? I can't be the only one asking this question. I'll ask you, and maybe you've got some ideas. Natalie said, Seth, can you be kind of a flashpoint for something like this? And the one challenge that I have is, first of all, I don't think my influence is nearly broad enough. Secondly, and I'll just have to admit this out front, with a channel and the word atheist in the title, it is so polarizing that for an effort that is that needs to come off as for all of us, people of all religions and none, I worry that I would be much too polarizing a figure to be, even a local rally. I think someone else is going to have to do it and let me help support it. Right. I'll join hands with you on the front line, but I can't be I don't have the pull, and I would be, I think, too polarizing a figure. They'd immediately point at me and go, Satan, right? But how can I support another effort, another influencer, another cause, another organization? Which organization would that be? Where are they? And where do I sign? Are you feeling the same? That's what I want to talk about today. So let's talk to Robin at 605. Robin, are you there?
Hello, Seth.
Welcome.
Yes, I'm here.
Let's talk. What's on your mind?
I'm just so tired of pretending to be surprised by the things he does. It's like every time he does something, we just have this reaction to it, and it's just so just tiring. There is no bottom to his morality. And what gets me is that obviously the Trump supporters have no bottom to theirs either. That's what they will defend. Today I had memes, that said that Trump was trying to protect Zelensky and the Ukrainian people by getting him out of this war. He was 10 steps ahead of everybody else. I mean, just the mental, and I kept thinking, what makes somebody think like this? And I think that about how so much of that movement is Christian, and they defend God's immorality in the Bible the same way that they defend Trump's immorality in the United States, and it's just disgusting. But I don't know. I don't have any answers. I wish I did. I cannot. I'm still trying to figure out what happened to my neighbors. That I'm in Kentucky, and I feel like that most of the people I grew up with now are just devoid of any morals at all. They just out of their minds. It's like watching the Kool-Aid.
No, yeah, it's like watching Jim Jones followers literally drink the Kool-Aid and say, thank you, more, please.
Yes.
So, Robin, I feel your frustration, as do many who are watching and listening. But if we find a rally point, I'll do my best to pound the drum, let everybody know, okay?
Well, I wanted to shield for something I think you would support, the Ark Encounter protest.
Yeah, I've done an Ark Encounter protest. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm involved with this upcoming one in July 6th in Marysville. And Pangburn and the Kentucky Atheists are hosting it, and a lot of other Recovering from Religion is going to be there, and several others. The Vice Rhino, Godless Engineer. I know I'm forgetting everybody. Mandisa will be there.
Yep. Is there a place people can go to find out more on the Ark Encounter protest? Do you know if there's a website or something?
Yes. Yeah, there is a website. It's I don't know if it's the Ark Encounter protest or just Ark Encounter protest.
I'll find out.
But you can check with Pangburn's Pangburn Universe on their website, or the Kentucky Atheist has all the materials too.
Pangburn's still around?
We would love to see everybody come. We plan on this being the biggest protest so far.
All right. All right. Well, we'll have everybody Google it, or somebody can put it, paste that in the comments. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. See you. Yeah, I participated in an Ark Encounter. For those who don't know, the Ark Encounter, Ken Ham of Creation Museum built this life-size, 2-scale Ark, which is not actually a boat. And he totally finagled it. He told the state of Kentucky, we are not a church, we are tourism. So he got state funds. And then he said, no, we're not tourism, we're a church. So he gets to pretty much operate nonprofit. And to tour the Ark Encounter is to hear your brain cells explode, and to watch these little minnows, these little homeschool children being toured through, cages full of velociraptors and stuff. I mean, it's insane. And so we like to go out in, skeptics groups. We'll go out and we'll have a big thing and make some noise out in front of the Ark Encounter, and the media comes out and talks about it. And we're like, this is insane. And it's a bleed on the state of Kentucky, and it's a joke, So if they're having a big event, good on them. If I may, Pangburn's kind of problematic. Pangburn had a big thing with, apparently, as I recall, somebody check me on this, where they were supposed to be funding or paying for some events, and there was a big row with Sam Harris over unpaid bills, and so I don't know if Pangburn has managed to make that good and restore itself. I certainly hope so. But if not, I think that's something we need to be aware of. So maybe someone can do the due diligence and let me know. Let's see here. Come forward. Before I go to the phones, hang on, everybody. I don't have a producer, so it's just me. So this is the charm of having one guy tried to multitask. I need a partitioned brain where one side of the brain can do this and then maybe another section can do that. I've got someone monitoring the calls in the chat and everything else. And instead, you just got me. I'm just one man. I've got Jerome in Seattle. He said, I wasn't even this embarrassed by Reagan and 2 Bushes, for fuck's sake. Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing. And thanks for the super chat. You are most kind. Let's see. Farron, given the capture that Joe Rogan has on a percentage of the public, I vote Seth Andrews to counter his nonsense with at least providing pushback to his guests when they say something out of step. I'm actually far from the most qualified because much of what he says is related to scientific stuff. And so I'd love to, more than that, have a qualified scientist. I mean, I can go in on the cultural stuff, and I can certainly go in on religion. He brings up the Shroud of Turin. It's on. I'm your guy. Call me, okay? But like when he talks about the fossil finds and human ancestry evolution, we really do need an evolutionary biologist who can communicate on the fly in that chair. But you're very kind, and thanks for the $20 super chat. Catherine has said, you're a valuable contributor and sounding board for our democracy. You stand for all Americans. Thank you. Catherine, apparently 77 million Americans and maybe some others would disagree with you. And in the eyes of many, I'm a pariah. In the eyes of many, I'm the godless. Was it Elon Musk who said secular religion? Apparently, I'm part of that secular religion. But thank you for a $50 super chat. It is so greatly appreciated. I don't know. I've got a role to play. But what is that role? Brooklyn, hi. Thank you for the super chat. I'm so depressed about what's happening to our democracy. Trump is Putin's puppet. In April, there are 3 special elections for the House. If Dems win, we get control of the House, 2 in Florida, 1 in New York. It's one of those moments where I mean, I hope, but I'm not optimistic. Does that make any sense to anybody? Nick at 509. Thanks for your patience, my friend. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Nick, let's talk. What's on your mind?
Hi, Seth. I actually called a few weeks ago. I'm a PhD student researching immune cells, and I called expressing my concern about RFK Jr. and head of public health. Do you recall?
I do. What's up
Great.
today?
Well, basically, I just kind of wanted to chime off of what you were saying, because this is kind of something that applies to almost every realm of what this administration is doing. And if I can just summarize something from a video titled How Hate Killed Truth by Dark Matter 2525, he shows this clip from a Fox News host named Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters talks about how the right's political campaign strategy is completely different than the left. And he even says something along the lines of, this is what the right is doing. He says, someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. Essentially, he's bragging about lying. You can send a message out that's a complete lie. It reaches millions of people, and it's not even been vetted. And this is pretty much what we're seeing with public health, with foreign policy, with anything. I mean, think about all the things that have come out in the last month that have just been shown to be flat out lies. It's something Dark Matter actually says here is, it's like playing chess with someone who can move their chess pieces however they want. So there's no rules. If there's no rules like this, then everybody loses. And essentially, this is why we're seeing the truth lose to lies.
I had some
movement of
frustrations, if I may,
anti-intellectualism.
Nick. Somebody was chiding us because they're breaking the rules, right? They do whatever they want, and we are constraining ourselves by the rules. So we actually obey the law, we follow procedure. And some have argued, and maybe they're right, that one of the problems is if you have someone who is willing to do what you just said, make up the rules, kick the pieces over, set the board on fire, whatever, and then declare victory, it's impossible to play unless you as well are prepared to do what is necessary. So do at some point then we start breaking things ourselves. And I don't know if you have any perspectives on that, Nick. I mean, at some point do we storm the Bastille?
Yeah, it's hard to say because I think that kind of the left versus right rhetoric is largely just something to distract us from the bigger picture, right? And the bigger picture is someone like Trump has been left leaning for so long, and you look at all these other oligarchs like Musk and Zuckerberg, they're just gonna they're gonna take whatever narrative best suits them. And right now, the most useful narrative to them is exactly what you were saying, is to kind of vilify these other groups. And so it's not even almost like a political issue. People are not seeing that this is really just the takeover of oligarchy. This is an up versus down issue, not a left versus right issue.
Yeah.
And Trump and all these other guys will get in bed with the Christian nationalists because it suits their needs. But one interesting thing is that I almost feel like there's too many opposing viewpoints in this administration, and it's hard to see if this is they might just destruct on their own. It's already kind of happening.
Yeah, James Carville.
The unfortunate thing,
forgive me, go ahead,
is that we all have to suffer.
James Carville, the Democratic strategist, and he's come forward and he said he thinks the strategy is for us just to sit, and within 30 days, they're going to implode. Public opinion's going to completely turn, and they're going to do it to themselves. And all we have to do is bide our time. And I disagree. I not that I don't think that there might be a point of critical mass, but given the history that we've been through, I don't think we can wait for that. And two, I think as creatures of principle, we must act. Sitting back and waiting and saying, well, I think we have to. I want history to look back at this time and say that tens of millions of Americans stood forward publicly and denounced the atrocities and the cruelty and the bigotry and the assault on our Constitution. And I want history to remember that, yes, good people stood against oligarchy and plutocracy and totalitarianism and all that stuff. And where's that point going to be? Where do we start? Where do we go? That's probably the big question that we continue to ask today. So anything else, Nick?
No, you know what? I completely agree with you. I guess the hard part, though, is just trying to, I don't know what can be done about how false information is just propagating so quickly, because we can do what we're doing and we're not going to give up, but it's almost like fighting an uphill battle against just all of this, just complete lies that spread.
No, I think it's like fighting a wildfire with a teacup. It's just insane.
Yeah. The White House is supposed to be some kind of reputable source, and that's just no longer the case. It's crazy. Yeah. But I won't take up any more of your time. Thanks for having me on.
You're very kind. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you.
Bye.
What was I going to say? God, I do this all the time. Why did I walk in this room, right? It's right there on the tip of my tongue. It's gone. Let's see. Is it Soban? SIOBA or BHAN 417?
Hi, yeah, it's Siobhan.
Siobhan, please forgive me. Siobhan, welcome. What's on your mind?
So I've seen floating around the internet posts from various, more left-leaning people, I guess, saying, things like, if you know somebody who voted for Trump and is now having second thoughts because something he did hurt them, it's important to, reach out and uh, give them a hand and welcome them into the resistance or whatever. And I have to just declare that is a very, very bad idea, and we should not fucking do that.
Okay, so let's say that somebody is extremely, extremely, extremely late to the party, but maybe Russia's the tipping point. Holy shit. How in the world did we ever align with Putin? Something's wrong. And then that sort of becomes their ticket out and they leave Trump cult. You don't think we should make room for them?
The thing is, the people who voted for Trump, the reasons that they voted for him haven't gone away just because they're mad at him now.
Yeah.
The farmer who loses their farm to Trump's, BS, doesn't suddenly stop hating immigrants. And especially as a trans person, I have to say, these people aren't going to stop trying to take my rights away either. If we do, kick Trump out or whatever, that part hasn't been fixed.
No, I think that makes sense. So if someone feels personal
The
pain,
people who
oh, I never
voted
thought
for
they'd
him-
eat my face.
The people who voted for him, sorry,
Yeah, you're fine. Siobhan, go ahead.
the people who were all in on MAGA and voted for him to make him president and are mad at him now because, I don't know, the price of eggs hasn't gone down the way they wanted to, they are only mad because it personally affected them. If there's not a change in values, if they don't understand the mistake they made was one of principle, then nothing's going to change.
Siobhan, is there a place in this scenario for someone who might actually have an epiphany away from their bigotry? Let's say they, and I'm thinking of a couple of people who I'm not letting them off the hook for supporting a totalitarian, but somehow they rationalized it. Maybe it was the abortion thing because they believe life begins at conception because that's what they learn in Sunday school. And he's the great businessman and he'll fix it all kind of thing. But maybe they weren't motivated because they hated trans people or that time. Even if someone like that finally, if the light bulb finally begins to illuminate, is there any place for that kind of person?
I don't expect there's going to be a whole lot of those, but if there are, I think that's the best possible scenario.
Yeah.
But it's a case by case kind of basis. Like, your own friends,
Honestly, I'm pissed. I mean, I'm just, and you know what gets me, Siobhan, is in so many other aspects of their lives, I see that they're generous and they say kind things, and I think they genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. But there's one guy right now in the fore of my mind who is locked in a disinformation bubble. So he doesn't watch Trump's speeches. He sees what Fox News packages about the speech. So Fox News will just show Trump walking through and they're like, Donald Trump exerted great leadership today on this, right? So he's not seeing what's actually happening. He's seeing the disinformation that's been packaged and sent his direction. He's totally uninformed about what's going on in the world. And that's his fault. So I'm pissed that he, and of course I'm over here sounding the alarm. If he came to me tomorrow and said, holy shit, was I wrong? I would have that conversation. If he did it because he was just a bigot, we probably wouldn't be friends anyway. in any way, even on the tennis court. I don't know. It's messy. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's situational.
that's
It's
fair.
case by case. Maybe that's true.
Well, yeah. I mean, if somebody is having that conversation and they seem genuine and are actually like questioning their intrinsic biases, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But the person who is just mad because they lost their government job and didn't think that was going to happen, leopards ate my face crowd, those are not trustworthy people, even if they might be temporary allies specifically against Trump, right?
Yeah.
And the thing to repeat what Skepchick, I'm forgetting her full name right now. She made a video about the same topic a few days ago, which I very much agree with. But she pointed out something that I hadn't thought of, which is that the strongest indicator of whether someone is likely to fall for a scam is whether they have fallen for a scam before. So if you know somebody who has had a genuine change of heart and understands why supporting Trump was bad on all of these various levels, then I don't think there's anything wrong with remaining friends with that person, of course, but you might want to keep an eye on who else they're talking to.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think, and the chat just mentioned this as well. I think Skepta, I think that's Rebecca Watson that you were speaking about. I saw the article. Yeah, something about
Right.
it's not on us to welcome ex-MAGA with open arms, and I understand exactly what's being said and what's being argued. I mean, I'm at this point where it's like there's just no excuse, and knowing what I was like as a Christian,
Oh yeah.
I would have known it was bullshit. And so, it's not like I don't know I was indoctrinated and was reasoned out of unreasonable ideas, but I also know that I had a moral compass that would have known all this was a bunch of bullshit. And so I'm stopped giving everybody a pass. As a trans person, you must live in you must wake up every day and wonder what the hell assault is coming next. I mean, how are you holding up, Siobhan?
So I am no longer on speaking terms to my closest family because we had that conversation shortly after the election of like, well, what made you support this guy, knowing what you know about him? And they just made all kinds of excuses about immigration and the economy and so on. But the more I dug, the more it became apparent that the bottom line was they cared about my civil rights less than any of that BS.
Mm.
They decided that my ability to live my life as a person able to do what I want with my body and not have to fear being attacked in the street, that wasn't important enough for them to care about. And that hurts so much.
Well, Siobhan, you are loved and you're valid and you have a place here. And I'm so sorry for, I wish you could apologize for other people. I know they're responsible for their actions, but I look at the epidemic of cruelty and I think, somebody was talking about the trans agenda. And I'm like, you know what the trans agenda is? I would like to live, love, be happy, and not feel like I'm in danger 24/7. How close am I, Siobhan? Is that the trans agenda? I just want to live, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I would like to hang out with my friends, maybe take a vacation once a year if possible. It would be cool.
Well, we're all in this together, and I'm on your team, and I know you're on ours. And just know that there is a culture of people prepared to stand alongside you, with you, in front of you, we have your back. And thank you for sharing a perspective. There's a lot of truth to that, isn't it? At some point, You know, even if they come back, we got to think, Jesus Christ, if they were that gullible, or maybe if they were fueled by that type of bigotry, if that bigotry is still there and they haven't had a complete life reversal or values reversal, they may not be trustworthy, and we should, at the very least, keep our guard up. I think that's wise, Siobhan. Thanks for sharing it.
Thank you, Seth. And I really appreciate having an ally like you out here, keeping it real.
I appreciate you. All right. We'll talk again. Take care.
Have a great day.
Always like the name Siobhan. Eddie, thank you for the $1.99 super chat and the support. Come in handy whenever the Trump government comes and decides that atheists are the enemy of the state, and Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everybody else shadow bans us or just knocks us off their channels outright. Looking forward to that day when I get the email. Seth, please list 5 things you have accomplished in the last week. Criticized religion, criticized cults, said Trump was a piece of shit, advocated for minorities, marginalized groups, stood with Ukraine. Send. Thanks for responding. You're fired from all media. You know he's going after media outlets. Anybody who doesn't fit in this tiny little mold, he's filing fucking lawsuits. So he's trying to create an atmosphere where people are terrified to criticize because, oh my God, look at that $20 billion lawsuit. Even if we know we're going to win, who's got the money to litigate that? And then the appeals. It's strategic, putting the fear into all dissent. Classic authoritarianism. And I do wonder if some point I'm going to get some sort of and they're not going to notify me. I'll just wake up one day. Oh, your channel no longer exists. Really? I'm not sure exactly what I would do with myself. What my skill set is, if any potential employer was to Google my name, how hireable am I? Yeah. What are your qualifications? Well, I kill God with my words. I mean, I'm put that on a business card. So thanks for the support. Anyway, I didn't even go off on it, but thanks for the support. Oh my God. 790. Is it Lance? Are you with me?
I am.
Welcome. Thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm quadriplegic, have been my entire life. And so I'm not going to be good at storming the castle, and unless you use me as like a ballistic of some sort, catapult into the White House.
Well, we put munitions on you, and yeah, okay, all right, that's okay,
right? Some sort of battle cry as I
Lance, you're funny.
Through the wall.
You're funny.
But so, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, the forum's all yours.
Okay. Well, I guess there's a delay of some sort, just a little bit. What I'm doing is trying to get a hold of lawyers and things and see if I have any standing on the DEI portion of things. Like, I'm the first person in the United States to win a discrimination in hiring lawsuit under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So if you look up Carr versus Fort Morgan School District, that's me, and we set precedent with that.
Wow.
But my idea is, you can look up, we actually set precedent in that the law said if the reason you don't get hired is solely because of your disability, then you can bring a case, and the judge said that didn't, and this is a Reagan appointed judge, old as hell. And he said that didn't, that doesn't follow the spirit of the law, because, they could hate me because of my disability, 99%, and then 1% because of my mustache. And that would disqualify. But anyway, my thoughts are these DEI. You have to remember this is also because for accessibility is included in that. They've shut down all ramp installations or other accessibility efforts and monies. And they also one of the I call them edicts. I know they're executive orders,
Sure.
but one of the edicts was that any school or college taking part in DEI is going to lose their funding. So I don't see how a disabled person is going to avoid that. It's to these people, it's always going to look like a hire for other reasons than quality of work. So they're going to effectively force everybody out of work and out of school and pursuing their education. Without the Department of Education, that all the funding for special ed comes from the federal level, and all of the, the enforcement comes from that level. So I don't know how we don't go back to the 70s with this.
I wonder too if, we know there are people in MAGA who have disabilities or have children with disabilities or friends with disability, people who benefit from DEI. Do they just not know what DEI is? Is it that they just say DEI and think people of color? What do you think they're thinking? I know it's just your opinion.
Well, you saw Trump during the plane crashes saying, can you believe they have people with mental retardation and dwarfism? No, he didn't say dwarfism. He might have said midget at the the air traffic control.
Yeah.
So that he's saying it out loud to them. I have extended family. My cousins and uncles are all batshit crazy MAGA. So, their love of me, they know I'm super smart and they know I deserve a job, but it's those other not good ones that, and actually they're more into the anti, foreigners, and they don't want their money going to all this other stuff. A lot of tax resentment, and I almost think that's a cover up because they're just pissed off about taxes.
I tend to think when a lot of people hear DEI, it's just white people saying, "Oh, unqualified black people taking white jobs." That's just kind of what I hear in their voices.
If you go, think about it. If you have they've told people that they have to narc on DEI hires. Well, so how are you going to determine that? If you're walking through the office, all the white men, you're going to leave them alone because obviously they're not DEI, and I say A, but because they're white guys. Obviously, they're qualified for the job, and not giant dipshits with too much testosterone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I think you're right. It's color. It's disabilities.
Gender.
And gender. I think they were trying to say, obviously there was a woman piloting all of these jets that were crashing, or when Boeing was having airplanes fall apart in midair, they were trying to blame a female pilot as though she made sure every bolt was in place prior to flight. It's a cult of hatred, and they really found some common ground.
Lance, I'm glad you can keep good humor amid all of this. And I'll tell you, if we storm the Bastille, you're not ammunition. We'll carry your chair. I'll grab one side, and I'll grab Aaron Raw. Well, he'll grab the other side, and we'll get some people on the front and back, and we're all in this together. Okay, we're going in.
So you're saying battering ram? Okay, I get it. I'm fine.
No, we're not going to use you as. You would be fun at parties, Lance. You would be a ball. We should just have you out. You're awesome. Anything else before I move on to my next call? Anything else we missed?
Not really. I'd like to call in again sometime and tell you how I taught high school, even though I can't move. So I was defenseless amongst 14 to 18-year-olds. That's where you learn the humor thing.
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah. The raging hormones and
So
the eye
anyway,
rolls, and you can't tell them anything thing, probably. Yeah. Go figure. Um,
right.
well,
But
wow.
heck, you have a wonderful day.
You're a
And I'm
great call.
Gimpy G if you see me online.
All right. How do I recognize
So
you online?
Gimpy G, like
Okay.
I was Gimpy G Gaming, I wrote to you. And then
Okay.
like my latest thing is I invented an AI apparatus that uses your regular webcam to look at your facial movements and change those into gaming moves like jumping, or
God,
like you
that's
can do Elvis flips, and that will make you run one way, Elvis flips the other way, you run the other, that kind of stuff.
that's awesome. Lance,
If
you're
you look up
terrific.
Google Gabe Face, that's me.
Okay. All right. We'll keep our radar out for you,
And it's
and
free.
we'll see you at the big demonstration. Okay. Or
Okay,
demolition.
I look forward to contributing any kind of inertia or blunt object you might need.
Okay. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.
Okay.
All right.
Bye,
Please forgive me dipping out of frame a little bit. I have been suffering with tremendous allergies, and in Oklahoma, they're just horrible right now. And I'm trying not to gross everybody out, but man, it's just been awful. So my eyes get all swollen, and I'm trying not to sniffle and gross everybody out. Let's see. Before I go back to the phones, JF, a super chat of $1.99, and you are greatly appreciated. Scrolling down, 1999 from Tony P. I'm so embarrassed to be an American right now. I'm so glad you brought this up. So I was, and I know, but I was a Tea Party conservative. Okay, I was. You know me. You read my books. You know my story. Okay. But there was an event that happened with the Dixie Chicks 22 years ago. The Dixie Chicks were doing this was back during the presidency of George W. Bush, right? And they were out of the country. They were doing a concert in London. And Natalie Maines told the audience that she was embarrassed to be an American because they did not support the imminent invasion of Iraq. And we all know that WNDs turned out to be a shit show. Okay. So they were right. And on foreign soil, she said, I'm paraphrasing, I'm embarrassed to be an American. And I'm telling you, an entire culture turned on the Dixie Chicks. They boycotted their albums. They burned them. They theatrically smashed them into pieces. I'll never buy another Dixie Chick record. I'll never go to a concert. They are dead to me, the Dixie Chicks. And I'm back then I had that sort of, it's kind of bad form to criticize your country on foreign soil. I didn't really have too much of an opinion about it, but it kind of left not a great taste in my mouth. And now I'm like, hell yeah. Because I feel exactly the same way. I want to look at NATO and the UN and the European Union. I want to look at Macron. I want to look at Trudeau. I want to look all around the world at all of these leaders who have come forward. And I want to say to them one-on-one, face-to-face, eye-to-eye, voice-to-voice, I want to say there are tens and tens and tens of millions of people who are not just as outraged as you are, but perhaps more so, because this is our home. We are horrified. We are traumatized. We are outraged at what's happening within the borders of the United States. This is not who we are. We're going to fight this. Right now, we're just trying to figure out how and when. I guess the when is now. I'm embarrassed to be an American right now. I wish I could apologize for the country. I'd like to apologize for the $77 million who decided they wanted a king. And then they went back to whatever it is they do with their day, while he brings Elon and his hacker racists to go and do fuck knows what with the treasury. Somebody was talking about Elon and his control of 2/3 of the planet's satellites right now. And is he buying Verizon or AT&T? He's involved in telecommunications with a new deal that's either happening or will happen. Okay. And related to all communications, which affects everything, whether it's battlefield strategies and communications, air traffic, right? Everything. So what happens if Ukraine is fighting Russia, and again, Elon just decides he's going to pull the plug on Starlink to guarantee Ukraine's defeat? Oh, fine. You won't sign the deal. You won't make the deal. You won't kiss the ring. Unplug. Sorry about all the dead people. Sorry you lost your land, property, sovereign nation. Sorry about that. It's horrible. Unplug. What if some people want to leave the United States? They decide, screw this. I'm not going to be a party to this. I'm not sitting still for this. I'm leaving the country and living elsewhere. And many people are, hell, Natalie and I have looked into it. What if he then decides that he is going to deny exit? Right. He's going to keep what if he's able to say, no, sorry, that flight's canceled, pal. You are no longer allowed to fly. Or you can't communicate because we are now regulating how you use communications. I don't know that I would have thought just a few months ago that was insane and impossible. Nothing's impossible. It's all possible. It's all on the table. And in my heart, I am embarrassed of the United States. Embarrassed. Storm chaser Patrick. I know weather seems so trivial compared to everything else right now. It does not. I live in Tornado Alley and we're getting ready for storm season. Just want to remind everyone that NOAA is crucial to our economy. They protect our supply chains. They protect our power grid from space, weather, and more. That's right. Meteorology being defunded. We are seeing our ability to track and monitor storms to keep people safe in what is going to be a wild and tumultuous March, April, and May. They're saying this part of the country where I live, Oklahoma and a little bit south and east, we're just going to get our asses kicked. Natalie and I have already cleaned out the storm shelter. We're ready. But what happens if the monitoring of severe weather and the reporting of severe weather is adversely affected because the professionals in their fields were just kicked out like parasites, like villains, right? We need this. Was it Jon Stewart who was asking the question, are the people at Doge going through like surgeons and carefully using scalpels to make sure they don't slice critical blood vessels that would kill the patient? No, it's chainsaw amputation. And then they look around and go, shit, I guess we needed those workers. Somebody call them. What's their number? Why aren't they answering? What are we going to do now? Nuclear monitors, people who are in charge of maintaining and monitoring our nuclear weapons arsenal? Oh, shit, we didn't mean to let those 300 people go. Somebody, do you have can I text them? Hello, nuclear people. Ebola. Oh, shit, bird flu. We need those people. Somebody call them. I think they're saved in my database on my phone under bird flu as their company, but I don't know who these people. And then do they want to come back, right? Because the government essentially said, fuck you, you're out. We're going to toss you out like trash. And now they're like, would you please come back? If you had any option at all, why would you go back? Because as soon as you solve problem A, before they get to problem B, they're going to decide you're dead weight anyway, and you're gone. Oh my God. Just thanks for the $20 super chat, by the way. John, former JW here from Australia. Your content and calm approach helped me so much in my deconversion process 8 years ago. That's not that long. Keep up your great work. So appreciated. Sending love and appreciation. And right back at you. I'll bet you and I walked some of the same steps, even though I was a fundy Christian. You were JWs. We didn't knock on as many doors, but we did knock doors from time to time. Pardon me. I'm from the church down the street. Have you met Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? And then we'd go back, even if nobody ever accepted Jesus. But we always felt good. Yes, we went out and shared the good news. It was really more about us. It was masturbation. We went back to our church lairs and said, yes, we have done God's good work. Yes. Aren't we faithful servants? Isn't so much of evangelism about that? Not really about everybody else. It's about us saying that, we're evangelists. Pibble Punk, thanks for the call. That felt really good to get off my chest. That's why I'm here, right? Just have your people contact my people, and we'll all vent together. Sheridan asked the question, who will protect us, citizens of the USA? I don't know. I kind of get the vibe, like whatever happens to us, we may have it coming. Half the country has it coming. Mark, at area code 519, you've been most patient. Are you there, Mark?
Hello, Seth. Yes, I am.
Welcome, my friend. Let's talk. What's on your mind?
Yeah, my mind feels a little confused. Yeah, from Canada. So I just wanted to start off by saying you guys aren't alone.
Thank you.
Recently in the news, just this week, I think it was, I saw an American couple had come in my neck of the woods and was at a restaurant and paid for everyone and then made a public apology for what had just recently happened in your country.
Wow.
And that almost brought a tear to my eye.
Wow.
What else can I say? Oh, just briefly, a little bit of an aside here. I met you a year and a half ago, you and Aaron and a few of the other people that were up at in Sarnia. My wife and I were there.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting. Thank you very much. Some rambling here. Oh, the Monty Python cow. That's what Lance reminded me of.
Oh,
the one where they catapulted him
over the castle wall.
Over the wall.
I enjoy that kind of good humor. That just makes me laugh.
Lance was interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty funny stuff. Well, Mark, solidarity to you up there in Canada. Somebody said once that living above the United States is like having the apartment over a meth house. And so I'm very sorry for your loss, Mark, but.
Well, we are all experiencing this to one degree. And I mean, Germany just narrowly escaped re-electing Nazis, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the far right surge there has been terrifying, and Elon Musk has been in support of it.
I know. That bothers me a lot too, because anyway, that's a long story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here we are busy re-electing right-wing governments as well, not nearly as radical yet. And I'm hoping that word just disappears in the future, but it scares me a little too. I mean, you were just talking with shucks, what was that last guy's name again? I said the wrong word. The trans person you just had on,
Siobhan,
whose name you said you liked. I always thought that was a nice name. Yeah. That was an interesting name too. My daughter and some of her friends are heavily involved in freedoms and rights for virtually everyone who is, not mainstream in any form of the definition. And that took me a little while to get my head into, but I'm happy to say I'm there. Having listened to you over the years and others as well has made me feel much better about my leaving the Christian faith years ago. So that was also very helpful. Having various points of view from you, specifically from the United States, as well as views on Christianity and personal liberties, separate from religion, also very informative, and it's helped me a lot with my discussions with other people. And I was going to say, growing up in Canada, I never particularly felt strongly patriotic. In hindsight, I felt more like a citizen of the world and less like a citizen of a country. I always viewed our southern neighbors as neighbors, and nothing really more or less than that.
Oh.
So, yeah. I don't have anything specific to say, just a few ramblings to add.
Thanks, Mark, and my dogs say thanks as well as they bark in the background, okay? All right, we'll see you later.
Very good, thanks, Seth.
All right, bye. Hey, there's nobody out there. Come here, buddy. Linus heard a child playing across the street and figured he was on duty, the sentry that he is. So he started. The problem is when he does that, it makes me jump out of my chair because it scares the shit out of me. Here, pal. Nah, he's not going to come. I was going to hold him up like Simba, like in front of the camera, you know, the circle of life, and show everybody. But he just got a haircut. It was so cute. So we took Linus and Gracie to the groomer, which they hate. Now, here's the scenario, and I'll get to the next call, I promise. So we're like, you want to go on I got to be careful. CAR. I can't say the word. You want to go on the CAR? And they both lose their minds. Yeah, bouncing around and their tongues are out and they're jumping and they love to go. We've got the little dog beds in the back. So they get to sit up high and they're restrained. And so they can see what's going on. And then they realize, whoa, we're not going to Andy's Frozen Custard for a pup cup. We're not going to the dog park. We're going to the groomer. And they're like, oh, shit. So then, you know, they're like, please. I think it's the nails. They don't like their claws clipped. You know? So, but we get them back and they're super cute. But on Linus, the groomer put a little necktie, little man's necktie on him around his neck. So when I picked him up, he had this totally cropped cut and we did his ears nice and short and his eyes are really big. And he just looks like, you know, a little boy, little puppy. And he's got this cute little necktie on his, oh my God. Everybody's taking pictures. Look at this. Look at how cute he is. And he was in hell. He's like, I hate this. I don't like ties. I'm a t-shirt kind of dog. Take this off of me. So anyway, if they bark again, please know that's the nature of a live broadcast originating in my studio with dogs at my feet. I hope you find it endearing, not annoying. I've got a call out of Sweden. I don't see a name. Hi, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Welcome. What's your name?
Pat.
Is it Pat with a T?
No, it's PER. It's the Scandinavian or Swedish version of Peter.
I see.
The same thing. So,
welcome to the show. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know if it went through the screen call, but I spent a year and a half in the States in the early 90s, and I think you and I are about the same age, and it's really confusing and a little bit worrying about what the country of the early 90s actually ended up being. And I spent a summer at summer camp at the YMCA camp in Missouri in 92. And being a Scandinavian Swede with sort of a secular upbringing, but still a Christian country or the Christian values. The royal family is still supposed to be Christian and so on, the Lutheran. And meeting the people there and seeing what actually happens and with the people I met and where we are now with the situation that it actually ended up being, I really don't know what actually, I wouldn't say went wrong, but what happened.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's
I had a lot of.
Go ahead. I'm happy. Unfortunately, because of the nature of our connection, our viewers and listeners are having a difficult time understanding. But if I may restate quickly, you were here in the 90s and you've been kind of monitoring, but you saw the United States from inside our borders a few decades ago, and now you're wondering what happened. Is that a good summation?
That's a very good summation. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, would it be okay if I was to answer your question off the air since we have such a poor connection? Would that be all right?
That should work fine. That should work fine, sir.
I beg your forgiveness for having to cut the call short, but thank you so much for calling. I appreciate you, Pat.
Yeah, no problem, sir.
There have been whole books written about this. we are talking about an effort that actually began in the mid 20th century. All right. As we saw the rise again of religious nationalism against the Red Scare of Soviet Russia. Ironically, Russia was the great Satan, and we were positioning ourselves as the godly country, God's nation, one nation under God, which is why Congress started printing money that said one nation under God, or in God we trust, rather, on the money. And then we replaced the original motto for the country, E pluribus unum, out of many one. We changed it to in God we trust, and we put under God in the Pledge of Allegiance. That happened all in the mid 20th century. So then you have the rise of the Reagan era. We had Jerry Falwell, the moral majority. We had the rise of the Family Research Council and James Dobson's organizations and the Heritage Foundations and all of these billionaires during the greedy 80s. We saw 80s the decade of excess, where trillions were added to the national debt, of spending, everything was over the top. And we saw big money players going, oh, wow, we would like to support either or Christian nationalist ideas. We want to make a theocracy because the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and they vilified gays during the AIDS crisis, and atheists have always been an easy target. And don't get me started on the foreigners, right? And they also wanted, the business people, the billionaires, really wanted more libertarian models so that they could operate unchecked without having to worry about rules. And so it was in their interest to create a nation where they had sided with the God Squad. And because Jesus is a capitalist, the Christian nationalist and the oligarchs all teamed forces and worked over the course of 40 years to stack courts at the local, regional, state, and federal level. And yes, I'm also talking about the Supreme Court, and backed an unbelievably immoral candidate because he was the horse that they thought was going to win. And so they funded, they backed, they excused, they rationalized, they lined up like lemmings. Well, actually, they were really more of a shadow puppeteers, not lemmings. They weren't following blindly. They had an end. And now what's happening? Donald Trump and his minions are there, and deregulation is happening on a grand scale. All right, on a grand scale. Well, let me give you an example of what deregulation looks like. So in the 1980s, and this is right before I got into broadcasting, but Ronald Reagan deregulated radio and television. Okay, there were restrictions, and you had to do this, and you had to qualify, and you had to do all of these other things. And there were sort of specific guidelines that you had to adhere to. So Ronald Reagan goes in, and he deregulates the whole industry, thinking it'll make it more competitive in the free market. What happened immediately after is that major corporations went in and sucked up all of the radio properties, right? It wasn't about greater diversity and opportunity so that anybody and everybody could play along. Once he removed the regulations, the guidelines, the requirements, Clear Channel and all these other major companies came in and just scooped everything up. And then they began to rubber stamp. So the KISS FM in one city sounded just like the KISS FM in another city, which sounded like the KISS FM in another city. And then they did syndication, where they would have one guy sending stuff out to a ton of stations. So it was the exact same thing. And I think right now, 90% of all media in this country is owned by 6 companies. 6. So here we are in 2025. The idea of deregulating means that the people worth in the tens of billions of dollars go in unchecked without having regulations, and they can further monopolize everything while the rest of us look around helplessly going, how the hell do we get out of this mess? People have voted against the regulations that protect them against predation. They're worshiping their own chains. Thank you, oligarchs. Or I'll tell you another one that gets me is, well, The billionaires already have money, so they don't need money. They're not motivated by money. They must be interested only in the public good. What kind of naivety is that? It's a zero-sum game for these people, right? More is always more. More is always more. Have you ever seen somebody who has relinquished power and money and said, you know what? I've got squillions. Just take it all. I'm good. Linda, happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. That's right. It's all about me. On your birthday, it should be, Linda. $10 super chat. Thank you so much for the words of love and affirmation. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I hope you have a wonderful birthday. Save the rest of us some cake. I'm thinking kind of a fluffy chocolate with vanilla icing, maybe some sprinkles. What kind of cake do you like? I've got D. Murphine, $20 super chats, and your support is so welcome. Mark says, Seth, we need a laugh. Here's my take on it. Hello, I'm the atheist down the street. Have you heard the good news about Christopher Hitchens? Can you imagine what Hitch would think of this madness? He would call it madness. And he was calling this stuff out long before it went down. I can't imagine he would, he was proud of leaving the UK and becoming a citizen of the United States. He had actually said that, I always kind of gravitated toward the United States. And he knew it was problematic, but there was something about him that I think felt more like this was his home. Is that weird? I mean, I don't think that's an unfair characterization. I've heard him interviewed, or I had heard him interviewed many times about him. But I think at this measure, he'd be gone. Either that, or he would be front and center on step one at the Capitol, or maybe he would do both. Maybe he'd go to the Capitol and do his thing, and then he'd fly back to London or wherever he wanted to live at the time. I don't know. Jerry Garcia is God. $10 super chat. Donald Trump is nothing more than a useful tool for the white Christian nationalist movement. Our founders often warned that if America fell, it would fall from within. Keep up the great work. I am speaking in Phoenix Thursday morning, 10 o'clock, on the Capitol steps in Arizona about state-church separation and the lies that history revisionists have been spinning about the faith of our founding fathers. We see the David Bartons, etc., these zealots, pseudo-historians who try to tell everybody and teach to young children that, yes, the founding fathers were all a bunch of Bible-banging Jesus lovers. What a load of crap that is. The founders never intended for us to be separated from state and church, or church from state. They were always meant to be married together. What a bunch of crap. And secular Arizona has asked me to come down and spin a few words together, 30 minutes worth of stuff on the Arizona Capitol steps in Phoenix. And you're welcome. If you're in the area, 10 o'clock in the morning, come out and see us. I've got all the details on that and all the conferences that are coming up at thethinkingatheist.com/events. Okay. thethinkingatheist.com/events. Orlando's on the way. Minneapolis is coming up. Nashville, Alberta, Canada, Sarnia is on the way. There's a bunch of stuff that's on the horizon. There's an event, I think, in Seattle. So anyway, thethinkingatheist.com/events. Frank, thanks for your patience. Area code 732. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. You can hear me all right?
I can indeed. Let's talk. What's on your mind?
Seth, it's a pleasure and an honor to speak with you.
My honor to speak with you.
First time, long time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my mother died last week. Last Saturday, she died from uterine cancer at 61 years old. And I just have a whole lot of feelings, a whole lot of things going on in my mind. But one thing that was a real terror for me was that Medicaid, right? So she was not able to work the last few years of her life, but she relied on Medicaid for her health care. And as for the election, it was like real terror of like, what are we going to do if she loses her health care? Yeah, I mean, with that, I mean, there's just so many things that I've been going through and processing, and just trying to, like, I guess, grasp for, because when she died, we still thought she had more time. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I've been.
How are you doing? I mean, that's pretty recent. That's a pretty fresh wound, especially if you thought you were
Yeah,
going to have more time. How you holding up?
I've been doing the best I can, and so that's why I actually called for, like, just how to process and manage grief. I'm the only non-believer in my family, and it's been extremely difficult. And I guess trigger warning. I was, for a few days, I was very at like SI, suicidal ideation, and I was very I think it was the just the thought that my mom no longer exists. Right? It's like she was here. I was her primary caretaker, and then suddenly it's like she doesn't exist anymore. And for me, it really felt like just, and I kind of still feel this way, but like it felt like there was just a complete loss of value, just in the world. I mean, for the first 2 days, I stayed in my bed the entire first 2 days, and then as I lost my rational mind, and it's like, there's no value. I don't want to live. I did some stupid things. I did some stupid things. But then I think at the end of it, I started realizing that, I don't want to live, but I don't want to die either. And then from there, things started incrementally getting better and better. I mean, I guess as well as it could get. But I think the big thing is just like, it was very hard to find resources and like support. And I was looking everywhere for support. I just felt like no one could hear me. Like they'll listen, but they didn't hear what I was saying,
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very tough. It's like, like what do you, so like, I think in that I envy the religious, because it's like my fiance, and I have a fiance, my fiance, I said to her, I'm like, you believe that you're going to go to heaven and you'll meet your loved ones. But I'm like, for me, it's like that's it. And yeah, I think that was the biggest thing to struggle with.
Well, I think it's understandable. My heart breaks for you. We've all, I think, in our own way, had to process a finite life. We had somebody whose teenage daughter was killed in a car accident last year. And
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's horrible. 17, her whole life in front of her. And I mean, I did a whole show on it because I was pissed. Yeah, I don't begrudge anybody for, we self-medicate, right? We will one day see her again is not something I would not ever go after the family for, right? I mean, I have more compassion as a humanist. But the funeral was a church service. The pastors were like, would you like to see her again in heaven one day? If you died tomorrow. And then I got totally pissed, But the idea that we only get one shot and life's not fair, and who knows if we're going to get tomorrow, and I miss them. These are all very real things for secular people. And my heart just goes out to you. I myself have processed it in a way that it has made my life more important, the moments more critical. The fact that there may be no tomorrow means I got to say it today. I got to say the words and hug the people and do the things, and try to make sure that I didn't go to sleep not telling Natalie how much I love her, and not trying to set goals and work toward those and try to be a meaning maker, and so I don't have any great wisdom, but I do have a resource that I like for secular people who've been navigating grief. It's called Grief Beyond Belief. Now, their website has apparently a security certificate problem. And so when I pull up their website, my antivirus says, hang on, there may be a security certificate. I'm sure it's something on their end, but they have a Facebook page. So if you're curious, go to the Facebook page for Grief Beyond Belief and reach out with a message to them. They have people who can help navigate through some of these thoughts and feelings, and that might serve you better than me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling, my friend. Big hug from Natalie and me. We'll see you later.
Take care. Bye.
All right. I don't know what causes that. It's like, I know they're not a malicious website, but something about the site itself, the server that it's on, am I speaking the right words, is not secure. So maybe your data, there's some sort of protocol that needs to be shored up. I guess I could send them a message and say, hey, FYI, unless you want to do it. But they do have a Facebook page for Grief Beyond Belief. And, they're good people, and they've helped a lot of people. So I recommend them enthusiastically. Adele at 904, been on hold for an hour, and you're still here. Welcome.
Holy shit, I made it on.
Is it Adele? Is that right?
That's Cadell.
Say it again for me. I want to make sure I get it right.
Cadell.
Got it.
Cadell.
Welcome. What do you want to talk about?
It's an illustration, if you will, that you'll understand where this is going. But I've been thinking about this for a while. So picture this: you and 9 other people have been starving for about a week, nothing to eat. You're at the end of your rope. And then 2 people come out of nowhere with something for you to eat, right? And the 2 people, say one's wearing a red suit, one's wearing a blue suit, might know where I'm going with this. And the blue suit person offers you, I don't know, bologna sandwich with nothing on it, right? Or like a bunch of bologna sandwiches with nothing on it, just so you can fill up. And the red suit person offers you, let's say, like this giant tub of brownies. And it's got red, white, and blue sprinkles on it. It's like, oh man, it's going to be delicious, right? Anybody with sense or logic and a working nose can tell it's poop. So if, like, and the thing is, it's like, you have to vote on it. So whoever picks, whichever one has the most votes, that's what everyone has to eat. If you're one of those people who didn't vote on that because you thought, I don't like either one, like that bone sandwich, that sounds lame, I was just going to let them choose it because there's no way they would eat poop. And then that last person does pick the poop. You don't get to blame anybody but yourself for the fact that now this is what you have to deal with.
So,
help
me understand, who do you say is responsible for the situation we're in?
The people who didn't vote and the ones who knew the risk of eating poop other than a bologna sandwich because a bologna sandwich wasn't exciting enough, which is like my point about Kamala and Trump. It's like,
yeah, it wasn't a filet. It wasn't filet mignon, so let's opt out, kind of thing. Yeah,
it's so dumb. It's
so dumb.
She wasn't. There's never going to be a perfect candidate or whatever, but I was like, you see the risk here.
Now,
like,
third party,
suggesting?
And people who opted out on quote unquote principle are, more people voted against Trump than voted for him. And then a shit ton of people stayed home, and they want to wash their hands and say, well, it's not my responsibility. It was a protest non-vote because the whole system's broken. And those people I consider to be just as responsible as MAGA for where we are. because by washing their hands and saying, as long as I participate in the system that is broken, I am a part of a broken system, therefore I'm going to take my ball and go home. They are part of the reason that we are here, and they disgust me. And so I take your point.
Yeah, like the ones who they was like, what is this? It's not poop. Like, I can smell things. Like, yeah, you do. It's poop. Like, stop trying to pretend like you're not eating poop.
All right. Well, if you'll forgive,
Yeah.
if you'll forgive the expression, we'll let the comment section chew on this and see what they have to say about your analogy. Okay.
All right, buddy.
Thanks
You
for
take care,
calling.
all right?
The author and humorist David Sedaris has a great quote, and I pulled it up. He said, I look at these people, he's talking about MAGA. I look at these people and can't quite believe that they exist. Are they professional actors, I wonder, or are they simply laymen who want a lot of attention? To put them in perspective, I think of being on an airplane. The flight attendant comes down the aisle with her food cart and eventually parks it beside my seat. Can I interest you in the chicken? Or would you prefer the platter of shit with bits of broken glass in it? To be undecided in this election is to pause for a moment and then ask her how the chicken is cooked. Exactly. Evan said, it's so sad how religion robs people of healthy grieving. This is often true. I understand the utility in some contexts of religious thinking, I don't know, as a coping mechanism, but many times it keeps people from dealing in a healthy way with their grief. And you make a great point. And Evan, thank you so much for the super chat. Normally my streams go 90 minutes. We're doing okay. I've got a little extra time. Would you like to continue this conversation? You got me on in the background. Are we spending the midday together? You ready to be done? You tell me. You set the tone. You determine the timing. Julie at 902. Hi, are you there?
I am. Hi, my name's Julie.
Hi, Julie. Glad you're here. What's on your mind?
I actually just wanted, I'm actually also in Canada, like Mark, but I lived in Texas for 10 years and my son's down there. He's an American citizen now. Okay. All of that. And I want to talk kind of not really about Trump, because this is going on around the world. Trump is just, wow, the head of the pimple, you know, like really that pointy part. Oh, but no. It is more about how we are dealing with it, because we're really struggling on how to approach this in today's world and get some messaging through. And it's kind of crazy making a little bit. Actually, I do want to throw it aside in there. Just as you were talking about how, and I know you were talking about Christian nationalist changes in the mid-20th century, but it is also our cultural change. We, like the 80s, when we came out with, you know, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and we had the whole .com boom, and it was all about how much money you could waste and hoard for yourself, that we admired them. And as a society, like, being a billionaire should be a shameful thing. To hoard all of those resources and all of those money so that you can claim to be the winner of the game, because they're just markers and tokens for your little billionaire game there. That really should be, as a culture, we should consider that a shameful thing.
I'd like to see you run for president, because I would vote for you, because that's some wisdom. You just dropped a wisdom bomb on us. You're absolutely right.
Like, overall, and I understand it is so hard now to message and get that out, because social media and the way we all do that, and the loss of standards that we're holding our journalists to, you know, public, all of that stuff. I understand it is really difficult. The world is changing. We have to do it way better. But as a bigger part, as a culture, we really need to decide who we want to be. Either we are for the common good and trying to build our world together, or we are rugged individualists And it seems to me that it is really a conflict between that. And I actually don't mean, because I agree with you, that lots of people who are on the right aren't necessarily hateful. They want their kids to go to college. They want to be able to have their own lives. They just think that they'll get it through on the right wing way. And especially, of course, the evangelical groups and other religious groups that are very much, I mean, we know, I think we've talked about it before, that there's a kind of marriage between the right wing perception and religious training and how we think and approach life. Or I think maybe it's a little bit easier for people who are evangelical or very part of those kinds of church groups, Baptist, evangelical, Protestant, all of that, simply because there is this idea that no matter what they do, someone is going to make it okay. There is a big author up there who's going to make sure it all works out right. Like it's a movie they're scripting, right? In the end, there's going to be a twist. And this is going to be awesome, which kind of frees them from accountability for the choices they are making now and what we're deciding on, how we're going to build our lives together and how our society is going to work and our taxes are going to be funding and what we're going to do, what we represent, what our values are. Not only do you get to absolve your accountability by just deciding that someone else is going to take care of it for us, or make sure that if we make a mistake and we choose something bad, and this is really a mistake, God or the great author, whatever you believe, there's this sense that someone's going to step in and do it differently, like fix it for us, not let us screw up. There's a big parent out there. And between those two things, I think that's what we really need to be able to message and get underneath to help people make active choices for themselves. Because it's hard to be informed now. It's so hard. I'm a real political junkie, and I spend hours keeping up with it all. I don't blame anybody for not being. They have lives, and I have my own thing. I'm disabled. I'm a caregiver for a parent. I have plenty of time. Everyone else has lives. They have kids. They have a job. They have it's hard these days to be that informed.
Yeah. Well, it certainly
Did I lose
has.
you? Oh, okay, no, okay.
It has required the rest of us to try to be better in terms of fact checking. The problem is that confirmation bias is a cancer that infects everybody, all human beings, and we have to be aware of it. But no, I agree with you. I've come to the point now where I think why the American dream is you too can be a billionaire. We need to rethink what the American dream is, right? The American dream should be we all have our needs met. We all have plenty, more than enough. And I'm all about success. If you take risks and work hard and you become a 7-figure business person and good stuff happens to you, I'm not jealous. I don't hold that against you. It's, high five, hats off, good for you. But at some point, you become a wealth hoarder in a world with that much suffering. There is absolutely no rationale for you to be able to have more money personally than 150 nations around the world. That's just stupid.
Exactly right. I don't begrudge you if you're wealthy. I'm okay with that. I agree with you, but there is a limit on how far that goes when you've tripped over that line, for sure. And I mean, healthcare, it is about how we message that too. I'm going to say healthcare is one, and it frustrates me. And I think from the Democratic side, because I feel like I see this all the time, and including in liberals in Canada and whatever, the left, whatever country you're in, and whatever the issue is, the tendency is to have this idea that they're pitching, well, what about these people who are suffering? And it comes from compassion, which I completely understand. Healthcare is a good example of this for me because, well, these people will suffer, and what about cancer? And we don't want children to have these diseases and whatever else. And that is, I'm sorry to say, not particularly persuasive to the right. Or at least a chunk of the people on the right. Their perspective is more that life is hard and it's rough and stuff happens, and some people just lose out, and they're embracing that kind of world. So the compassionate argument isn't really persuasive. But when it comes, for instance, to healthcare for all, my argument is it is the reason healthcare for all, besides the fact that it is much more cost effective. You guys already spend so much money on healthcare and you're still not providing it to everybody. So it's not just that it's financially effective. My life personally is better when my neighbor has healthcare, when their children have healthcare. You have fewer people with disabilities. You have a whole healthier society overall. You have fewer problems with crime, like you lower crime, you lower disability, you lower bankruptcies, all of those influences that really cause harm to our society. If my neighbor has healthcare, it gets better. Like it's the smarter move, not just because I feel bad for someone who's broken their leg and or whatever, who got sick and has cancer and can't get treated and they're going to die in a month. It's not that. It is that it's the smarter move for my life to be better. And you, Mr. Right Wing, your life is going to be better. Like it's those kinds of messaging. It's the language we're using. And I should say, I'm an immunologist. Kudos to the gentleman who called earlier, the grad student. I can't remember his name. Nick, I think. Power to you. I'm a big believer. I'm a research scientist. So if you ever want to talk about immunology, vaccines, and evolution another time, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
What?
No. Go ahead. I was just affirming verbally. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, I actually kind of lost my little train of thought there for a moment.
Fine.
I'm so sorry.
You're
I was going off on there.
No. It's all good. I mean, you've given us plenty to chew on here. I think what we hear in this country all about freedom.
Oh, I was saying language.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Self-determination. It's about language. Part of it is the language we're using is what I was saying. I was kind of working that into there. And that's why Trump and everyone is in Fox News, and that's why they're so successful, because they are just simply shameless with their language, right? They say whatever, and we just have to be careful not to fall for it. I remember when Antifa came up, right? That was anti-fascist. I'm anti-fascist too. I'm anti-fascist too. And then the right wing condensed it into a little one-word slogan, Antifa, and we're able just to put that in a bubble that it's just the other side. It's the name of the other side. It's not. It is an active movement against fascism. And we lost that by letting it become a slogan.
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly they've been looking for others, whether it's BLM, whether it's Antifa, whether it's the deep state,
exactly.
the socialist.
DEI now.
Yeah. DEI, trans people.
Right now, DEI, which means something completely different. DEI for them means anyone in a minority group who has a job, you didn't get it fairly. You don't have merit.
Yeah. No, I got
right?
you.
And
I
me, yeah. I mean, we all agree it. We see it right there. I mean, it's never a white person who's accused of being a DEI hire, and I mean, I get that those programs are not particularly choosing someone who's white, but they will when they're more of a minority. I mean, I understand DEI to mean inclusion of everybody, and that the color of your skin is not a matter of merit. That's the whole point of those programs. You don't get hired just because you are a particular color. And so they had to develop these programs to represent and include all of the people who are traditionally being excluded.
I think you speak truth. I mean, honestly, everything I've heard so far is it's certainly a lot for us to discuss here. But they've been vilifying the other anyway. They manufacture a controversy, they construct a bad guy, and then they declare holy war against them. And tens of millions of people watch Fox News and believe it. So, Julie, I got to move on. I'm running out of time here, but you've given us a lot of good stuff. So thanks for your patience on hold, and thanks for calling me today.
Well, thank you for letting me come on. I really enjoy your show. So thank you for letting me speak for a while, and take care.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye.
Oh, wait. I
already hit drop. Sorry, that's not my fault. I'd already hit and there was a delay. Sorry about that. Catherine, $20 super chat. Thank you so much for your support. What happens when we attempt accountability and with their money, they can just kill or buy off anyone? There's no doubt the rich operate with a different set of rules. Did you read that Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, wants a bastion of journalistic integrity? We're talking about the Woodward and Bernstein Post, right? That exposed Richard Nixon and brought the Watergate hearings, resulting in his resignation, all that stuff. That Washington Post. Now, Jeff Bezos, the billionaire, has informed the public that the Washington Post opinion section will only publish free market opinion pieces. In other words, the Washington Post's opinion section doesn't feature opinions, except laissez-faire libertarian free market ideas that support the oligarchs who want to have a deregulated world where they can make all the money and do all the shit that we were just talking about a few minutes ago. How the hell did the Washington Post lose its opinion section? And as we see people in media establishments resigning in protest, which I appreciate because now they're a matter of public record, they didn't go along with the brainwashing. They didn't go along with the programming. They said, no, I'm an investigative journalist or an op-ed writer. But when they leave, it means they are replaced with more sycophants. They're replaced with people who do Trump's bidding, which makes the problem even worse. And I don't know how to solve that problem, except I think we are now in a time when we need a new media. And we're seeing the rise of people who are publishing on Substack and on other, less centralized platforms. Not the New York Times, not the Washington Post. They're not doing it on CNN.com, but they are publishing as investigators elsewhere, and they are catching fire. Many are catching fire. I don't know if you follow the American historian Heather Cox Richardson. Oh my God, if you are not following Heather Cox Richardson, do it. Do it. Pull up her Facebook page now. Pull her up on Substack. She does almost a daily rundown of here's what's going on, and she does it in the context of our history, and she gives you specific details of the events of the day with context, constitutional context, news of the world context, legal context. She is one of the smartest people I have ever seen do the kind of things that she does. I've actually reached out with a request. I'm like, I know you have a squillion followers and I know I'm a small fish, but if you ever wanted to come on my show, call me. I would love to talk to Heather Cox Richardson. That's not going to happen. But I have a dream. Tammy, 202. Tammy, thanks for waiting. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Seth. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Love your show.
Thank you.
I got turned on to you on the Atheist Experience
Oh, thank
show.
you.
I saw you the first time. But anyhow, I know you're rushed for time.
You're fine.
My question, I don't know if it's not politics, which is rare because I'm a political junkie, but I wanted to get your take on raising children atheists because, well, I'm an atheist. My daughter and her husband are. And they have two boys that are like 8 and 9, and they are raising them atheists. And they're very quick to point out anytime religion shows up somewhere, they're very smart little boys. But anyhow, how do you handle, well, the way my daughter handles it is, they're like, well, when you're with your friends, don't talk about, well, we don't believe in God. What are your feelings on that? Like, should they try and hide it as children just because, of the stigma and the fact that probably most children are being indoctrinated into Christianity?
I'm not a family counselor or child psychologist. May I ask how old the kids are?
Yeah, 8 and 9 boys.
Well,
8 years and 9 years old.
we are, I think at that age, you might be playing chess more than you're playing checkers. It may be a little bit of a longer game. We're still talking about relative minnows in this world. So behind your
Yeah.
doors, I think you are still teaching them how to think instead of brainwashing them what to think, which is the difference, right? Some people are like, well, aren't you
Yeah.
indoctrinating or
Yeah.
brainwashing your kids into atheism? And I'm like, well, no, I think you're raising critical thinkers. Would I be correct in that?
Critical. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
But
if they
like
go
I
to
say,
grandma's
they don't
house, I'm sorry, Tammy, go ahead. Go ahead.
at school, and get this, they just moved from DC to Florida.
Oh,
So,
joy. Joy.
and in school they say the Pledge of Allegiance in Florida, and I know the boys do not say the under God part.
At
You know,
that
so
age,
they're
your
very
kids are not going to have the educational equity or the maturity to be able to handle a conversation if grandpa and grandma or
right.
somebody else on the family tree says, wait a minute, you don't
Yeah.
go to church?
Yeah.
Why don't you go to church? What about this Bible church? Well, let me tell you about Jesus. I think
Yeah.
this may be a longer game where you are focusing on cultivating a critical thinker in your own home, and you then need to
Right.
carefully monitor whether or not indoctrinators have access to your kids. I think you need to be in the room whenever possible, or you need to maybe find a way to prepare the kids to say, what, if grandpa and grandma start talking about this or that, that's something that you and I need to talk about first. I think you
Yeah.
try to
Well,
get in front of it.
their parents, like I said, my daughter and her husband, their parents are very they're both very intelligent people, and they have discussed the whole religion thing with them, with the boys, and they do talk to them about it when things might come up, like not saying under God during the pledge. So they're in a good direction.
Yeah.
But it's just like, is it too soon to ask them to try and hide their atheism? But I mean, I'm with you. I kind of think at that age, and with other kids, and I mean, it's hard enough these days getting along with other kids, especially since they just moved to this new school.
I think it's just
So I
hard being a
think,
kid.
I kind of that over.
You're still discovering who you
But
are. Your body's about to change. You're heading, you're rocketing toward puberty. Now there's peer pressure. There are so many
right,
other factors going on. I genuinely think you're probably, and again, this is just one guy's perspective, but I think you're probably on the right track. If you raise someone who thinks critically and isn't easy meat out there, then what's happening internally as they process the world is really the cornerstone of everything else that goes on. And then preparing them, you may meet some people who are religious. Find out if if you value the same things. There are a lot of good religious people in the world,
yeah,
but we don't always agree about things. And if you discover something new, I want to know about that. I think this is a long game. If it helps, there's a great book by Dale McGowan called Raising Free Thinkers, a practical guide for parenting beyond belief. And it's pretty cheap. I think
okay.
there's a Kindle version. You might look it up. But I just think you're doing great. I think good for you. Raise some curious kids, and maybe one day they'll teach us something. Okay.
And and I was raised very religious. I was 55 and I'm 64 now. But when I didn't start even questioning all the crap that was forced down my throat until I was 55 years old. So
Yeah.
there's hope for anybody,
Yeah.
regardless of age.
Well,
But
they're going to probably have to amass, they're probably going to have to develop in terms of information and maturity and the ability to handle those types of discussions. I don't think we want to get them
right,
into a pissing match with I'm all about
yeah,
authentic lives, but at 8 and 10, if it was me, I'd focus more on what's happening in their minds and hearts and their identities, and maybe help to prepare them if they meet someone else to not start the shitstorm quite yet. You know, a lot of it probably is
Yeah.
geographical. Where do you live? What's the culture around you? What are the consequences if the word gets out? But only you can answer those questions. You just keep kicking out there, and thanks for calling. I appreciate you.
Okay. Thanks, Jay.
Oh.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Oh, I wish I'd been raised learning how to think. Yeah, it was rigged. Well, Jesus will prove himself to you. So ask questions, Seth. So if I was to go out and ask questions and I came back with an answer other than Jesus, they would say, you did it wrong. Go back out, ask some more questions, and come back to us when the answer is Jesus. So they always like to tell you, challenge it. Sure, test God. He'll prove himself. And if you come back and go, I didn't find any proof, they're like, well, you did it wrong, dumbass. It's amazing. I think I spoke in Minneapolis about how parents will tell children, and it's a lie, you can grow up to be anything that you want to be, which is a massive oversimplification. Like, I would love to play Spanish guitar at Carnegie Hall because I've always loved Spanish guitar. I took guitar lessons. I am the worst. I will never play Spanish guitar at Carnegie Hall. Okay. You can be anything you want to be. Oh, I'm not going to be that. I will never be that. I don't have a mind for math. I will never be an engineer. I am not coordinated. I will never be a professional athlete. But I get the spirit of it. But parents will say, you can be anything you want to be. But then if you make a values-based judgment on what you want to be and you tell your parents and they don't agree, they're like, no, don't be that. You know what? I'm gonna get a degree at this, Mom. No, you're not. Yeah, don't do that. Stupid idea. I fell in love with so-and-so. We're talking about getting married. Jesus Christ, you're going to marry that person? Don't do that. If you marry them, we'll never speak to you again. We're not going to the wedding. I'm going to take a job in this field. That's a terrible idea. Get a job in this other field. I swear. Parents so often will say, you can be anything you want to be, and then they commit the whole of their resources to limiting your options. Imagine if they'd said, well, what do you want? What are your values? Here's how to navigate the world. Here are the questions to ask. Here's the scientific method. Here's, how we evolved in the wide, wild spectrum of humanity. And here's what your skill set seems to be. And here's how we might be able to further determine that. And then you can help decide. Imagine that. I'm so jealous. 5x5 is given a super chat of $4.99, and it might as well be 4 million because I am so thankful. Cassandra, $9.99. The new outlets online are more trustworthy than the corporate media. I tend to agree. Midas Touch, which by the way now has the #1 podcast in the world, ousting Joe Rogan from the top slot. David Pacman, the Young Turks, Brian T. Cohen, Pivot, Zetio, the realignment is happening. I do think we are seeing the birth of a new media that is coming out of the shit show that has been going on. And I think that's remarkable. I think Julie as well sent a super chat saying thanks for the conversation. I'm scrolling up where. Forgive me. I see you, Julie. I see you. Let's talk to Micah at 817. Hi, are you there?
Hi, how's it going, Seth?
I'm well.
Can you hear me?
I'm well. Yes, I can. What's on your mind?
Great. I've been looking a lot into the rise of Christian nationalism lately. I've been reading the book Kingdom Coming by Michelle Goldberg. And I grew up in Texas in radical evangelical Christianity. Christian nationalism was definitely part of that. And, I was just going to ask you, because I'm trying to make so much sense of this. And I know that you have a little more time in that area of Christianity, or did you experience the Christian nationalism, right-wing fanaticism? How do you make sense of that? Like how that came up? Because they try to tie it with, of course, the love of Jesus and God loves everyone, which is obviously bullshit in conjunction with the Christian nationalism. anti-immigration, anti-gay, all of that stuff. I'm just wondering, what was your experience like? How do you make sense of that? Can you help me make sense of it?
Well, people come into Christian nationalism from a variety of different ways. For me, I was taught in a private Christian school the false history that our founders were all Jesus followers who wanted a nation that was Christian, and that all good comes from God. So the only way we as a nation could be good would be from that God, which happened to be the Christian God. And then culturally, it was just reinforced everywhere I went. And it was this bad. My fourth grade private school, little school called Temple Christian, our uniforms were the colors of the flag, red, white, and blue. Boys wore a clip-on tie with American flags on it. And whenever we would say the Pledge of Allegiance, right after that, we had to put hand over heart and we said the pledge to the Christian flag, and then we had to pledge our allegiance to the Bible. And we were being trained up as young people to go out and retake the culture for Jesus. We were going to go out and be little God warriors. The songs we sung, I'm in the Lord's army, I'm in Jesus's infantry. It's brainwashed into young children. It is preached from pulpits, and it is in many ways, too, the product of revisionist historians or pseudo-historians who sell the lie that the intent of the founders was to come here and make a church after the Christian God. But there's a lot of reasons people, I think, there's a superiority complex. There's probably a shade of xenophobia. Ignorance is an epidemic that's a big part of that puzzle. But, there's no single answer. There's a lot of gears in that machine, Micah.
That's true. And I'm trying to understand, I think we're also raised to believe on authority and on faith. And so that allows for charlatans to come in and manipulate the message. And I've seen a lot of that too, with the televangelists, the prosperity gospel, obviously the revisionist history, the big preachers, or the David Barnes, or the history guy who's all about revising America's history into radical Christianity. I just see a lot of that, and it was hard for me. It's hard for me because I trusted these people when I grew up. But they told me this is the truth. This is what you should commit your whole life to.
Yeah.
This is everything, and become a soldier in the army. And it's hard to process, hard to get a grasp on how manipulative and sinister it is.
Well, we know we're not a Christian nation. We know we're a secular democracy. We know that the founding fathers were often critics of religion. Many of them were deists, if that. And I think, as I'm going to do in Phoenix, Arizona on Thursday morning, 10 o'clock on a 65-degree day, outdoors in front of the Capitol, I'm going to continue to pound that drum. I know you will as well, Micah. Thanks for the call, though. I appreciate you being a part of the show.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. And I agree with, we can do better. And I agree with the positive message from before that there's better for us.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Did I say the young turds instead of the young Turks? Did I do that? It was very mature the way chat dealt with Seth accidentally saying the young turds. By the way, as I understand it, the young Turks have gone. Didn't Anna come out for Trump? Don't take my word for it, but I'm under the impression that the young Turks started to go right, like right wing, which, I mean, I don't know. Is that correct? Does somebody have a link or something? I didn't mean to say the young turds. I didn't mean to say the young turds. I didn't mean to do it. Is that a slip? Was that a slip? Wow, I'm not used to going 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm normally like an hour-ish kind of dude when we do the podcast. But it is funny when we do these live streams, which I hope you're enjoying. We do tend to go a little bit longer. I just tend to go until either I have to bolt out the door or until we exhaust the switchboard. Right now, it's a little bit both. I'm going to have to take off, but it's Such good calls, such great conversation, such a wonderful community. I don't know where the flashpoint is going to be, but I am actively looking for a way, a resource, a rallying point where I can focus my energies, signal boost somebody who is right there at the point position, join hands with them, lock arms with them. And I think right now, I think we're a culture of pent up energy. We're angry, we're disappointed, we're scared. We want to do something. And the fact that we don't know exactly what to do except call your representative, and most of those, at this point, there are very few who have been doing anything. But I'm going to continue my quest to find out what and where that is. And I've reached out to Americans United. I've actually got a message into a former Oklahoma politician who is a secular activist, and going to have a conversation about that. Like, is there something that I can maybe bring to this community that you can then join and you can bring to your communities? With all these tiny little grass fires, I really think at least one of these at some point when we least expect it is going to explode. It's going to explode. And that's what we need. And we need it to happen sooner rather than later. James Carville is wrong. The right move is not to sit on our hands and wait for the opposition to implode. Right? We have to do something. History is going to remember us. Our own values, our own moral center, our ethical compass requires we do something. And I am doing my best to figure out what that is. And I think you may be doing the same. So let's keep looking. And if you find out, you call me. And if I find out, I'm going to throw it out on my pages and I will let you know. And we'll meet there together. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll